welcome back. Today we're going to start getting the engine ready to take it out. So we've got lots of things to do, like taking the radiator out, all of the sort of parts of the engine, so carbs, all the electrical stuff like the dynamo, everything that was really attached to it to make it easiest to get out. This is the swan neck radiator. It's similar to the one from the MGA, but cost cutting. There's no drain plug, so it's going to go everywhere, unfortunately. But the first thing we need to do is disconnect the battery. So the next thing we're going to do is take out the radiator. We have to disconnect one of these rubber pipes that are down at the bottom to get all the water out. And also, luckily, we're not having to deal with an oil cooler because it's been bypassed. I know that oil coolers, I think from the factory at the beginning, were an option, so we're not having to deal with much more oil. I believe it's held on across here, so I think there are about 3 in the supporting one and 3 on this side as well. I don't think there's much more. Obviously you've got to take these off as well, but hopefully it should come out quite easily. We also need to repair this one because at some point it's had a repair here, I think probably with solder, because that's the way that really it could be done, but it's got a sort of pinhole leak, so we're going to sand that down, try and see how bad it is, and then fill it with the repair it with the JB weld stuff. So hopefully that might work. Otherwise we'll try the lead solder to fill that in, but it's going to be given a proper clean. Right, so now that's disconnected, I think we also need to take this off to get it to where it needs to be, because this needs to lift off. The problem is the radiator doesn't fit around. Right, I also need to disconnect the water supply to the heater box, so that should be quite an easy job. It's just some, I think they're called Jubilee clips down here. The next thing we need to do is remove the dynamo. We just need to loosen off the cable and then just slide it out with all the bolts disconnected. Right, I was trying to work out if there's any way of removing the carbs and everything whilst they're still attached to the inlet manifold, but unfortunately I think there are 2 bolts behind that I don't think you can get to, which is a real pain, because then that would have made it a lot easier because they're all set up nicely and we wouldn't have to worry. But I guess we'll have to take it off down here, so where the carburetors join. Right, I've disconnected all the springs, so it should just pop out now. And obviously you want to keep it all together. And that was... Take the shield off. Now we can start taking the inlet manifold off and seeing if I can take this exhaust manifold off, because it's a sports one, so I don't know how much, I don't really know how it joins up. I presume it seems to look like it goes, because it's a 2-piece one, but I don't know if it comes apart in 2 pieces or if it's just joined further down. Right, and now what I'm going to do is just attach the carburetors back to here to make sure that they are all in the right place, because obviously you can lose a lot of the carburetors or a lot of the parts because they're so fiddly. Right, so under the, actually you can get to it either way through both the sides, but I think it's closer to the passenger side. We are going to remove the drain for the gearbox now. I'm just going to take the fan out, and the fan's got some locking tabs, so I'll need to knock those out, and then it's just a simple 4 bolts and then it can be repainted. I'm just going to disconnect the water temperature gauge, so that's here. There we go. Probably need a bit of a clean. Oh no, actually comes out. It's actually coming out quite nicely. Sorry for the terrible lighting. It's a bit dark, and with the bonnet up, blocks all the light. We also have to disconnect the speedo and the tacho cables. What else? Oil pressure as well. Right, that is all we're doing today. Hopefully next time we will get the rest of the bits and bobs out and hopefully take the engine out. Stay tuned.